This section will take you step by step through the changes to the AFM for the CRJ and the Challenger 850. That is, the CL 600-2B19. Transport Canada's Airworthiness Directive, CF 2008-15, mandated that changes be made to the CL 600-2B19 AFM that emphasize and restate the importance of the clean wing concept. Advise of new procedures and limitations to reduce the tendency for high rotation rates and over-rotations. Advise of a change in requirements for a tactile inspection of the critical surfaces and definition of ground icing conditions. Reinforce that wing anti-icing is now required during certain taxi operations and for all takeoff operations when in icing conditions. State that if the wing anti-ice system has been selected on for takeoff, the cowl anti-ice system must also be selected on. The changes to Chapter 2, Limitations, Section 4, Operating Limitations of the AFM were designed to enhance the operational safety of the aircraft. A new warning text box relating to excessive rotation rates has been added to re-emphasize the correct rotation rate and pitch attitude for takeoff. Excessive rotation rates exceeding 3 degrees per second or over-rotations may lead to high-pitch attitudes and angles of attack being attained while the aircraft is near the ground. This can reduce stall margins significantly, resulting in stick shaker-pusher activation and potentially loss of control. Pilots must rotate smoothly towards the target pitch attitude, then transition to speed control. An additional warning is provided to remind the pilot of the need to correctly set the horizontal stabilizer trim for takeoff. Failure to set the pitch trim appropriate to the computed center of gravity may result in excessive rotation rate at takeoff. For clarity, icing conditions for ground operations have been explicitly defined. Icing conditions exist on the ground when the OAT is 5 degrees Celsius, 41 degrees Fahrenheit, or below, and visible moisture in any form, such as clouds, fog, or mist, is present below 400 feet above ground level, or the runway is wet or contaminated, or in the presence of any precipitation, such as rain, snow, sleet, or ice crystals. It should be noted that older definitions of ground icing conditions included references to visibility criteria. These no longer apply, and any amount of visible moisture is now sufficient to consider icing conditions to be present. During ground operations, the wing anti-ice system must be selected on for final taxi prior to takeoff if the OAT is 5 degrees Celsius or 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. This requirement is a function purely of OAT. Even in dry and clear conditions, the wing anti-ice system must be selected on for low OAT. When Type 2, Type 3, or Type 4 anti-icing fluids have been applied, the wing anti-ice system must only be selected and confirmed on just prior to thrust increase for takeoff. During single-engine taxi operations, final taxi prior to takeoff is defined as that period after the second engine is started. 2 notes follow. The first note identifies that during taxi with wing anti-icing selected on and the engines at low power, the left or right wing anti-ice caution messages may be posted. Prior to takeoff, the caution messages must be verified out and wing anti-ice on advisory message posted. These conditions ensure that the wing leading edge has achieved a minimum temperature necessary for the intent of this limitation to be satisfied. If wing anti-ice is not required for takeoff, it should be selected off just prior to takeoff. The second note in the subparagraph reinforces the need to minimize the use of thrust reversers during taxi on wet or contaminated surfaces. Reverse jet blast from the engines can contaminate the wing's critical surfaces. This AFM limitation consolidates the definition of icing conditions with the need to operate the wing anti-ice system during ground operations. The note states that if the wing anti-ice system is selected on for takeoff, the cowl anti-ice system must also be selected on. This note does not require that cowl anti-icing is on for taxi, just for takeoff. This AFM limitation reinforces that Type 2, Type 3, and Type 4 anti-icing fluids must not be heated by the wing anti-ice system during ground operations. The limitation also makes reference to the FCOM Volume 2 Supplementary Procedure titled Cold Weather Operations Phase of Flight Procedures. When Type 2, 3, or 4 anti-icing fluid has been applied, the wing anti-ice system is selected and confirmed on just prior to thrust increase for takeoff. The anti-icing fluid will be sheared off the critical wing surfaces by the airflow just prior to rotation. Paragraph 4 of the AFM's Cold Weather Operations section has been revised and now includes a statement about the danger of operations with contaminated critical surfaces. The warning states, even small amounts of frost, ice, snow, or slush on the wing leading edges and forward upper wing surface may adversely change the stall speeds, stall characteristics, and the protection provided by the stall protection system, which may result in loss of control on takeoff. Subparagraph A identifies another limitation that applies to cold weather operations. The paragraph states that takeoff is prohibited with frost, ice, snow, or slush adhering to any critical surface. Critical surfaces are defined as the wings, upper fuselage, horizontal stabilizer, vertical stabilizer, control surfaces, and engine inlets. Although the previous slide identified that takeoff is prohibited with frost adhering to any critical surface, there are two exceptions. Again, the AFM makes reference to the FCOM Volume 2 Supplementary Procedures. In the supplementary procedure titled Cold Weather Operations, Pre-Flight Preparation, External Safety Inspection, it is identified that frost on the upper surface of the fuselage is not considered to be critical if it is possible to distinguish surface features such as markings and lines. Frost in excess of this must be removed from the fuselage. The supplementary procedure also identifies that wing frost caused by cold-soaked fuel can form on the upper and lower surfaces of the wing even at temperatures significantly above freezing. Frost on the upper surface must be removed before takeoff. On the lower surface of the wing, frost associated with cold-soaked fuel is permitted for takeoff, provided the frost layer is a maximum of 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch thick. During the external walk-around inspection, the pilot must conduct a tactile inspection of the wings to determine that the wing is free from frost, ice, especially clear ice, snow or slush, when the outside air temperature, OAT, is 5 degrees Celsius, or 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less, or the wing fuel temperature is 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit or less, or the atmospheric conditions have been conducive to frost formation. Note that ice and frost may continue to adhere to wing surfaces for some time, even at outside air temperatures above 5 degrees Celsius or 41 degrees Fahrenheit. A new AFM Chapter 2 Limitations paragraph 4A has been inserted. The new pilot training limitation, effective the 1st of November 2008, identifies that enhanced takeoff procedures and winter operations training must be completed by the crew prior to operating the aircraft at temperatures of 5 degrees Celsius or below. The second paragraph relates to the pilot in command training requirement. The paragraph states that no takeoff shall be conducted where the OAT is 5 degrees Celsius, 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, unless the pilot in command has successfully completed specific training within the preceding 12 calendar months for takeoff procedures, ground icing conditions, and cold weather operations. The third paragraph is related to pilot training. The paragraph identifies that no takeoff shall be conducted by a pilot where the OAT is 5 degrees Celsius, 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, unless that pilot has successfully completed the specific training within the preceding 12 calendar months for takeoff procedures, ground icing conditions, and cold weather operations. Both the pilot in command and the pilot flying, if different, must satisfy this annual training requirement. If either crew member fails to complete the required training and the outside air temperature is 5 degrees Celsius or below, the wing anti-ice system must be selected on for takeoff just prior to thrust increase for takeoff. This training package that you are currently viewing and listening to will meet your enhanced takeoff procedure and winter operations training requirements.